It was a Tuesday morning, the kind where the world feels like it's holding its breath, and I was halfway through a Zoom pitch, my voice steady, my slides crisp, when a message flickered across my phone screen like a spark in dry grass. I almost ignored it, another family meme, I figured, or Kevin's usual dumb joke, but the words ATM and 3K snagged my eye, sharp as a fishhook. I froze mid-sentence, my client's face blurring on the screen, and opened the family group chat. What I read didn't just stop me, it cracked my world open, spilling 5 years of trust onto the floor like shattered glass. The message was from Kevin, my older brother, sent to the group chat with me, him, and our parents. The ATM just dropped another 3Kers, he wrote. Told her dad's meds went up again, she didn't even blink LMFAO. My pulse thudded in my ears. Before I could process it, another message landed. This one from Mom. Just bought the clubs finally. He's gonna flip when she finds out she paid for them, LOL. My hands shook as I stared at the screen, the words blurring into a cold, jagged truth. I thought it was a mistake, a misfire meant for someone else, but then Kevin tried to delete it. Too late, I'd seen it, and, as if fate wanted to gut me, he accidentally sent a screenshot of a private thread, a thread I was never meant to see. I scrolled, each word a blade. They didn't call me Zara, their daughter, their sister. I was the fund, the backup plan, or most often, the family ATM. For 5 years, I'd been sending them $3,000 every month, sometimes more when emergencies piled up. A leaky roof, dental surgery, dad's rising prescription costs. I never questioned it. I loved them. They raised me to be responsible, independent, financially sharp, and they said they weren't those things. So I owed it to them. I worked 60-hour weeks at my marketing consultancy in Denver, skipped vacations, wore the same 3 blouses to stretch my budget, all to keep them afloat. Meanwhile, they were laughing, planning behind my back, mocking how easy it was to bleed me dry. In one message, Dad wrote, "Tell her the furnace broke again. That one always gets her." Mom replied, "Don't forget to make your voice extra sad when you call. She folds faster that way." Kevin chimed in, "Once I get her to sign that refinance paperwork, I'm putting a down payment on the Tahoe." I sat there, the Zoom meeting droning on, my client probably wondering why I'd gone silent. I didn't care. My chest burned, not with tears, but with something hotter, sharper. I wasn't their daughter, I was their business strategy. The April rain tapped against my window, soft and mocking, as my whole body buzzed with betrayal. It wasn't just the money, $180,000 over 5 years, plus extras. It was the calculation, the casual cruelty, the absence of guilt in their words. I closed my laptop, stood, and paced my kitchen, the hardwood cold under my feet. These were the people who taught me to ride a bike, who cheered at my graduation, who smiled over Thanksgiving turkey. Now they were orchestrating a heist, and I was the vault. I scrolled the thread again, each emoji a fresh wound. Mom wrote, "She trusts us too much. We need to get those documents signed before she starts asking questions." Documents. My stomach twisted. I didn't know what they were yet, but the word felt like a trap snapping shut. I wasn't just angry, I was awake. They thought I was their easy mark, but they had no idea what was coming. I picked up my phone, scrolled to Megan Lane's contact, my best friend since college, a razor-sharp estate attorney, and dialed. The rain kept falling, but inside me, something hardened, clean and unyielding, like steel. Megan answered on the second ring, her voice steady despite the 6:43 a.m. hour. "Zara, what's wrong?" I stood in my kitchen, the family chat still open on my phone like a wound I couldn't stop touching. "I need to know how to protect my house," I said, calmer than I felt. "I think my family's trying to steal it." The words sounded absurd, like they belonged to someone else's life, but saying them out loud made them real. Megan didn't ask for details over the phone. She told me to meet her at her office before it opened. That's the thing about having a best friend who's also one of Colorado's sharpest attorneys. She knows when to listen and when to act. I drove through Denver's waking streets, the city's skyline glinting under a gray dawn. My house, a modest 2-bedroom I'd bought 3 years ago, was paid off in full. A big client contract, countless sleepless nights, no mortgage, just property taxes and insurance on autopay. It was mine. No co-signers, no strings. Or so I thought. At Megan's office, I slid my phone across the mahogany conference table, the chat thread glowing like evidence at a crime scene. She read in silence, her jaw tightening with each scroll. "Okay," she said finally, clicking her pen. "Let's start from the top. What do you own? What's in your name? And what access have they had to your finances in the last 12 months? I answered methodically, though my voice shook. The house was clean, but 6 months ago I lent Kevin my old laptop when his broke during grad school. I forgot it had saved logins to my Dropbox, financial documents, legal contracts, even a blank power of attorney form I'd downloaded but never used. Megan's eyes narrowed. "Was it signed?" she asked. "Not by me," I said, but then a memory hit like a fist. 2 weeks ago, Mom had come by with paperwork, saying it was for her taxes and insurance plan, asking me to sign just in case she needed digital access. I hadn't read it. She was smiling, pouring tea, distracting me with a story about her doctor. I signed it in a rush. Megan's voice cut through. "Zara, you need to find that document now." I drove home, my car on autopilot, and found it in the kitchen junk drawer, a standard legal form with a notary stamp. I scanned it to Megan, and her reply was immediate. "This isn't insurance. It's a limited power of attorney giving your mother and Kevin joint authority to act on your behalf in real estate matters. It's signed, dated, and notarized." The floor seemed to vanish. "She said it was for her account," I whispered. Megan didn't flinch. "This was planned. It's valid unless we revoke it today." We moved fast. By noon, we'd submitted a revocation of the power of attorney to the county recorder's office, flagged any real estate activity on my property for 30 days, and filed an affidavit declaring the signature was obtained under pretenses. Megan worked like she'd done this 100 times, her hands steady where mine trembled. "We're lucky they haven't used it yet," she muttered. "But if they're talking documents, they're close." I sat across from her, arms crossed, feeling like I'd stepped into a stranger's life. My family wasn't just greedy. They were calculated, willing to forge my trust into a weapon. But I wasn't helpless. Not anymore. The rain had stopped, and outside Megan's window, Denver gleamed, sharp and clear, like the edge of a blade I was learning to wield. The afternoon sun slanted through my living room blinds, casting stripes across the hardwood, but the warmth couldn't touch the chill settling into my bones. After filing the revocation with Megan, I thought I'd bought myself time, a moment to breathe. But the next day, my phone rang, a number I didn't recognize, a woman's voice, polite, professional. "Ms. Wright, this is Lisa from Edgewater Realty. I'm following up on the listing for your property at 237 Edgewater Drive." My heart stopped. "What listing?" I asked, my voice flat. A pause. "The one Kevin Wright submitted. He said you were out of town and brought a copy of your signature last Thursday for comparison." I thanked her, hung up, and stood there, the silence roaring. They weren't just planning to steal my house, they'd already started. I forwarded Lisa's voicemail to Megan, my fingers trembling but precise. Within an hour, she'd drafted a cease and desist letter to the agency, demanding they halt all activity on the listing. But the call was a crack in the dam, and more truths poured through. I sat at my dining table, my laptop open, and began digging through every digital trace I could find. Emails from Mom about urgent repairs, Venmo receipts to Kevin for car payments, bank transfers labeled medical expenses, 5 years of transactions, each one a lie, stacked like bricks in a wall I hadn't seen. I printed them, organized them into a black binder, and labeled it in red Sharpie, "Family Fraud Case." The act felt surgical, a way to carve order from chaos. That evening, I installed Ring cameras at every entrance of my house, their red lights blinking like sentinels. I wasn't just protecting my property, I was arming myself against the people who'd raised me. Then, on a whim, I checked my Experian credit report. My stomach twisted. A hard inquiry, dated 2 days ago, under Kevin's name. He'd tried to open a line of credit using my identity. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus, my hands steady now, fueled by a fury so cold it felt like clarity. They weren't stopping at my house. They wanted every piece of me. Megan called as I taped the last camera wire. The agency confirmed the listing was fraudulent, she said. Kevin provided a forged intent to sell document. We're adding this to the file. I nodded, though she couldn't see me, and stared out my window at Denver's skyline, its edges sharp against the dusk. My family had crossed into criminal territory, and I was no longer their daughter. I was their target. The binder sat heavy on the table, each page a weapon I'd used to bury them. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked, a normal sound that felt distant, like it belonged to a world I no longer lived in. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Dad, his voice smooth, overly measured, the tone he used when he wanted to manipulate. "Zara, honey, we need to talk about this behavior. You're acting emotional, and I get it. Money can do that. Let's have dinner as a family. It's all a misunderstanding." I played it twice, searching for a hint of remorse. There was none. No mention of the forged listing, the credit inquiry, the lies. Just me, emotional, as if I were the problem. I deleted it, the click of the button like a door slamming shut. I drove to the county clerk's office, my binder tucked under my arm. The clerk, Henry, a soft-spoken man with slipping glasses, looked startled when I requested any real estate filings tied to my property in the last 60 days. He returned with a slim manila envelope, and inside was a document that made my knees buckle. An intent to sell authorization, my name typed neatly, my signature scrawled at the bottom. A forgery so convincing it stole my breath. I gripped the counter, steadying myself. This wasn't a plan anymore, it was a crime, executed with my identity as collateral. Megan met me at her office, flipping through the document, her face tight. "We're filing a police report today," she said, dialing a detective she knew at the Denver Financial Crimes Unit. By afternoon, I sat in a sterile office, explaining to Detective Collins how my family had tried to sell my house behind my back. She listened, nodding, her pen scratching notes. "This is real estate fraud and attempted identity theft," she said. "It meets the threshold for criminal charges." I handed her the binder, messages, the forged document, and Lisa's voicemail. She took it all, her expression grim but reassuring. Back home, the calls started. Kevin, then Mom, then Dad again. Their voicemails a mix of calm pleas and frantic guilt trips. Mom's voice cracked, sobbing, "You're tearing us apart, letting outsiders poison you." Kevin's was darker. "You're making a huge mistake, Zara. We know things about you. Be careful how far you take this." A threat, veiled but clear, like poison in the air. I forwarded it to Megan, my pulse steady now. Then, a courier arrived, delivering an envelope that stopped me cold. A notice of intent to vacate due to probate proceedings, claiming I was medically unfit to manage my affairs. Kevin had filed a conservatorship petition 2 days ago, twisting my past migraines into evidence of instability. I called Megan, my voice low. "They're trying to declare me incompetent," she didn't hesitate. "We're countering this now. They've gone too far." Outside, Denver's lights flickered on, and I stood in my kitchen, not scared but angry, the kind of anger that builds empires from ruins. The conservatorship petition was a line in the sand, a declaration that my family didn't just want my money, they wanted my autonomy, my identity, me, erased. I stood in my living room, the fraudulent notice trembling in my hand, Denver's skyline a muted glow beyond the window. But fear had burned out, replaced by a focus so sharp it felt like a blade. I called Megan, and her voice was steel. "They're escalating, Zara. We're ending this." I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was dismantling their access to my life, piece by calculated piece. First, I audited my health insurance. 2 years ago, I'd added my parents as dependents, thinking their vague complaints about coverage warranted my help. Now, I saw it for what it was, leverage. I called the provider, and after verifying my identity, the representative confirmed Mom had accessed my medical records, citing my migraines as memory problems to bolster the incompetency claim. My blood ran cold. I removed them from the policy, citing fraudulent behavior, and requested a full access log. The representative noted they'd be notified within 30 days. Let them scramble. Next, I opened my life insurance portal. I'd named Mom, Dad, and Kevin as beneficiaries, a naive gesture from a Zara who believed family meant safety. The thought of them profiting from my death twisted my stomach. I replaced them with a Denver nonprofit aiding women escaping financial abuse, my fingers pausing before clicking save. It wasn't just a change, it was a vow. Then I drafted a court statement, 70 pages of bank statements, Venmo receipts, and handwritten cards they'd sent, thanking me for carrying the family. Every $3,000 transfer, every emergency payment, was evidence of their theft disguised as need. Megan's update came that afternoon. A forensic document examiner confirmed the intent to sell signature wasn't mine. The strokes were wrong, the pressure off. She'd also traced the notary to a Craigslist hire, likely paid under the table by Kevin. We were building a fortress of proof. Then a text from Lena, a childhood friend, hit like a slap. Your mom's telling people you're mentally unwell, saying you need help. The conservatorship wasn't just legal, it was a smear campaign seeded in the community to paint me as unstable. I called Megan. We're suing for defamation, I said, my voice steady. Emotional distress, exploitation, everything. She paused, then said, Good, let's bury them. Their retaliation came fast. A countersuit landed, demanding $250,000 for defamation and emotional distress, claiming my accusations harmed their reputation. A local blog followed, spinning me as a career-obsessed woman betraying her sacrificial family. Strangers commented, speculating about my sanity. I didn't respond. Then, at 10 p.m., a pounding on my door jolted me upright. Through the Ring camera, I saw Kevin, fists clenched, face twisted with panic. I didn't flinch. You're trespassing, I said through the audio. This is recorded. Leave. He stood for a minute, then vanished into the night. Megan filed for a restraining order the next morning, granted within 48 hours. When Dad was hospitalized with chest pains, Mom's voicemail blamed me, her sobs theatrical. You're killing him with this witch hunt. I listened 3 times, recognizing the guilt trip I'd fallen for too long. I didn't call back. A financial investigator's report sealed my resolve. My money had funded their golf equipment, trips, and Kevin's speculative investments. They weren't surviving. They were thriving, draining me to live beyond their means. Megan moved to dismiss their countersuit under Colorado's SLAPP protections. Our evidence, forged documents, defamatory rumors, and financial records, is undeniable. The city slept outside, but I was wide awake, my anger no longer loud but strategic, a force they'd underestimated. The countersuit collapsed like a house of cards, dismissed by a judge who saw through their flimsy claims. The criminal case loomed, and their lawyer, sensing defeat, proposed a settlement. They'd drop all claims, withdraw the conservatorship, issue a public apology, and cover part of my legal fees if I ceased pursuing civil damages. I sat with it for 3 days, not out of doubt, but to ensure peace wouldn't feel like surrender. On the 4th day, I told Megan, I'll settle, but only with a sworn public apology, no spin, no vagueness. They agreed, and when the signed statement arrived, admitting their lies, fraud, and manipulation, I didn't cheer. I stood in my kitchen, the paper heavy in my hands, and felt a quiet victory. Silence. The kind that comes when chains fall away. The apology was clinical, shaped by lawyers to shield their egos, but it was real. Published online, their names inked to the truth. They'd lied about my mental health, forged documents, and exploited my trust for financial gain. I didn't need their remorse. I needed the world to see. With the settlement signed, I redecorated my home, painting the walls sage green, not to erase the past, but to claim the space as mine. I started consulting pro bono for women like me, women who'd trusted too much and paid the price. Their stories, shared in quiet support groups, reminded me I wasn't alone. I posted mine anonymously online, and the responses, hundreds of messages, turned my pain into purpose. I rewrote my will, designating part of my estate to fund legal aid for familial abuse victims, a legacy born from betrayal, but built on strength. I didn't check on my family, didn't wonder about their lives. They were gone, not with bitterness, but with distance, a void where guilt once lived. Denver's streets felt different now, lighter, as I walked them without checking my phone for their calls. Healing wasn't a cinematic moment, no tear-streaked epiphany. It was cooking dinner for one and feeling whole, locking my door without fear, trusting my instincts over their lies. Sometimes, in line for coffee, I'd catch my reflection in a window, sharper, clearer, not softer or sweeter, but calm. I didn't bend anymore, didn't explain myself, didn't carry others' burdens. People say, but they're family, as if blood excuses betrayal. It doesn't. Family is safety, respect, and truth. And when that's gone, what's left is just people you used to love. I chose myself, not as a backup plan, but as my future, free to live without apology, in a world I'd rebuilt, brick by unbroken brick.